We asked you about art and his progression. I want to put a little different spin on it. How impressed are you that he's made this progress without Jerome? I would think for a true freshman quarterback to have a senior tight end who's led the team in receiving last year to not be there would be a major hindrance for him in this progress.
That's a good question. In fact, we're talking about it this morning because now you've seen Reggie Sutton in the last couple of games. We've been able to use him, kind of steal snaps with him, and he's played about 27 snaps in 2 games as more or less a blocking and a play action tight end. But we lost a lot when Jerome, was out or is out. And from week to week, we kind of thought he was coming back. And next thing you know, a couple weeks go by, and it hurt us in the run game. It hurt us a little bit in play action, and it certainly hurt the pass game. Because I think he finally realized, like I think we talked about it here way back after the Kansas game, that I thought that was the one guy on the field they couldn't handle. And then I kept telling Art, just find him. Like, it's not so much about, you have to understand, the structure was taking you there anyway, but you should have, I think he started to rely on him a little bit more as he got more comfortable with him, because remember, he wasn't here in the spring, and he was a little bit limited in camp, and it took him a little while to get up to speed, Jerome. So he didn't have a lot of experience with him other than all of a sudden the season starts and he realizes, wow, this guy's a force, so losing him hurt, we didn't really talk about it much, or, we have a number of other guys that are good players, but, to discount the experience that he had and the confidence, and Art was growing confidence in him, it did make it difficult, because, who's the bell cow? Raheem, I guess, right, if you look at the numbers, but I think Jerome would have had some pretty darn good numbers had he been able to stay healthy, and I think you become more of a viable option, another guy you just could kind of try to spot up and mismatch and get the ball to on 3rd down. And so when he went out of the lineup, I think that was a big miss for us. And we've made up a little bit for it with Reggie these last couple of weeks. It's helped, but it's still not the same as having a guy out there that's a dual threat.
Similar question, but on Art's progress, I think he went into the game with 70 straight passes without an interception, a bit longest in the Big Ten. I know he threw one late, in the game, but what has he been able to do to cut down on his interceptions? Is it offense? Is it improvement from him? Is it a combination of everything?
I think it's a combination. I think it's more, kind of like I said, going into this game, the education for me, like some of those games, I think maybe I thought we could do more than we were ready to do, and then just kind of let them fire away a little bit, and then you realize, we probably should have been a little bit smarter with the plan, and some of it is just his confidence in, kind of like what we said last week, his confidence in the thought process of he doesn't have to go just make some play now to put the ball in the end zone or to advance, and just to play within the structure a little bit and trust that if the first read isn't there, the next guy will be there for him. I think he's understanding the timing of the pocket and the little subtle movements in the pockets a little bit better, to give himself a little more space to get to that next read and to not feel pressed to just throw it to the first guy regardless of what's going on. So I think all those things have kind of contributed to it. Experience being the overriding factor of all of it. I think to play in these games against these defenses, every week we're talking about one guy or the other. This week we're talking about 99. He's got 7 sacks. So I mean, every week you're talking about the ability to rush the passer, the blitz package. I think the comfort level, so to speak, of that, having played 10 games now, that's starting to seep in a little bit too. And I like I said last week, you can feel the confidence when he's on the sideline. He's very calm. He's very good as far as communicating things. He's very ready to go, so to speak, rather than it's not fake and it's not just like bravado. It's like, no, I got this. I think it'll be okay. So I think it's all a combination of all that stuff.
If you guys get those 2 screen passes on the first drive of the game, do you think that the passing attack is drastically different?
Well, when we went into it, we were not going to play a traditional pass game like just take, for instance, Penn State. The week before, 5 sacks, basically 2 pick sixes. Quarterback gets knocked out, but you go right through the whole thing. If you go back each week, it was kind of the same result. So to sit there and just anybody that tried to do the traditional, like, hey, we're just running plays, got beat up pretty good. So the execution of the screens was paramount in having any success in the game, and we did. catch or the throw, you know, whatever it was one thing or another. And so when they don't hit, like if that first one had hit, you know, who knows? Because we hit a big run, we're up there at the 50, and that one looked like it was going a pretty good ways. You know, maybe things change, maybe they don't man it up as much. You know, even down the next drive, you know, Travis runs right by the man cover guy, and he goes and tackles Reed for a 5-yard gain on 3rd and 9. We just get in front of him. It's a first. So the number one kind of emphasis of how to get these things going, you know, we didn't execute it right the first handful of times, and then now you're chasing the game a little bit like, okay, what are we going to run another screen? Because there really wasn't a lot of plan of if we get like, you know, a bunch of 3rd and longs, if, okay, we just chunk it down the middle of the field, and that's what they want you to do. That's how they baited people into a lot of bad plays. But when you're not having success, and it's too bad because really all year we've had pretty good success with the screens, and the week before, you know, we operated them pretty well, and you know, obviously, you know, these guys are good, and but it's disappointing that we couldn't get them going. You know, the first one was the big one. To me, the first one was the big one, and really, you know, it was a little bit rushed. You know, you don't mind one guy coming off the backside. We shouldn't have had two. It was a little bit rushed, but still, it's right there, and you know, who knows where the game goes from there. But that certainly hurt.
Prior to the season, we talked a lot about the downfield passing game, and obviously it really hasn't been there much. How do you address that? I mean, even beyond this season, how do you kind of fix that?
Well, I mean, it's like Parcells used to, well, you talk about having confidence in your personnel, and then, you know, how aggressive you're going to be on game day. And, you know, I think we just have to look at who our best players are right now and try to see if we can't get them the ball the most times possible. And if that means not necessarily, I mean, we've gone away from a lot of different things that I thought we were going to do. We haven't, you know, like we talked about before, we don't shift the motion a whole lot anymore. We don't do a lot of stuff. But all in the name of just trying to let our best players go win the game. And if we can't do it with those guys, then so be it. So to just, and I think some of that was what happened, we just talked about earlier in the year. It was like, hey, I like these plays, so let's run these plays. Well, you look at Guff and go, well, you know, it's not, it really wasn't a good idea. There's nobody open. Or the ball gets tipped, or you throw it, you know, you get to a point with a guy like Art, it feels like, well, if we're running this play, I must be supposed to get this to someone, and the ball goes out there, and it goes to them or whatever. So that's why we're not scoring. Quite frankly, it's why we don't score. So our big plays have been in the run game or Pacheco passes, I guess. And so, you know, if that's the way it's going, you know, they're not. It's great, but it's hard to get points on the board. And quite frankly, that's really why, in my opinion, we haven't scored. So, and last week, not, you know, the best example. We were going to try a whole lot last week. Again, you didn't even look at, you know, when we got a little bit in the mode of more of the kind of 11 personnel passes, trying to move the ball a little bit. I mean, the ball was coming out relatively quick, and he was still getting hit. So to think that we were going to hold the ball and try to chunk it against them was that wasn't the week for it. But you can see it kind of tail off in the previous weeks as well.
Do you use the next 2 games to sort of try to be more creative with Pacheco and Blackshear? You know you're going to have the 2 of them going forward and try to find ways to use them. I know you did the Wildcat this week, and I guess the follow-up would be, is Pacheco candidate for the Wildcat? Because obviously he can throw the ball, but that would add something to it.
Yeah, you know, we went back and forth on who's the guy, who's the, you know, the quarterback, who's the ball carrier, and you know, kind of came to that conclusion. Obviously, what happened in the game was our biggest fear. We talked about all week. If the ball was on the ground, you got to get on it, which he did, and then like 15 promptly removed him from the ball. But no, those are, you know, those are two of the guys. Obviously, if you started the list of who you want the ball, it's like 1 and 1A, however you want to do it. And they both have unique things that they can do. Like I said, Isaiah can run and throw. Eddie can catch out of the backfield. Raheem can run, throw, and line up as a receiver and catch out of the backfield. So yeah, I think we have to just, you know, try to find as many options we can to just get them the ball. And I think when you do that, you know, I think the players, you know, you're in the middle of a long season, and certainly hasn't been any let up in the effort or anything. But I think it does put a little gas in the tank of the players. They go, oh, okay, this is something new, and hey, we got to get this going, and they like, you know, excite them, and you actually do it in the game. So, you know, those are the main guys. I mean, I don't think that's any secret. I don't think we're telling Penn State anything they don't know. I mean, those are our main guys. But there are a number of other guys who like to test, so to speak, in these last couple of weeks. It's hard to say you're going to do that in the middle of the game, but there are some other guys we'd like to see maybe show up and do some things as well. But if you started the game, you'd say, you know, those guys need to get the ball the bulk of the time.
Coach, kind of feeding off the other question before about the passing game and the screens, have you been kind of disappointed with the number of drops this year so far?
Well, you know, yeah. I mean, it's, you know, just to say it like it is, you know, to me, like when I told the players that, they made all their plays, all of them, and we didn't make enough. Like we dropped 3 balls at probably, I don't know, 100 yards or whether it was points or whatever it would be. And, you know, you're not going to come out of a game. Sometimes you're going to have a drop here or there. But when you watched, you know, if you see where you need to get to go win championships, you know, I saw 9 and 4 and 83 and 80, whatever he was that ran across the back of the end zone. You know, those guys made all of them. You know, 3rd and long, guys scrambling, throws a jump ball, it's back shoulder. They made them all, the quarterback too. So, and we didn't, you know, make the ones. I mean, when it was that limited a pass game going in, when you had them there to hit big, they had to hit. And if they didn't, it was going to be a tough to score. So that, yeah, that's disappointing. I mean, I haven't done receivers for another number of years. The number one thing is can he catch, which sounds obvious, but most of the time I've been in fights with scouts and draft rooms. I've been in fights with guys here, with Greg and recruiting coordinators and all that. And this guy is so big, though, he can throw him fades, and well, he can't catch it. You know, and then when a guy's coming out of college and he's 22 and he can't catch, it's like, we just got to work with him. Well, I don't know who's, you know, the ball just comes faster. It's tight quarters. You know, so to me, when you're evaluating that position, that's 15 years of coaching it. Maybe it's right, wrong, or whatever. It's just my opinion. It's can he catch number 1 over all the other interesting stats that people like to throw in there. So that's something you can work on, but that's a lot of times is on the player because you'll never be able to catch as many balls as whoever. Go right through the list, the guys from Jerry Rice on down, just in general, just stand there catching them. And it's the only way to get good at it. So, and get your arms strong, you know, your hands strong, all the things, sand, you know, buckets, all those things. So, but that's the number 1 job of a receiver, and obviously it's hurt us, you know, this year.
Take 2 more.
2-part question. On your roots with Penn State. One, you know, I know it's a long time. I'm assuming it's the first time you coached against Penn State or seen Penn State on the other side since Michigan GA.
Exactly.
And then the other part was, I know you played there in '88. I was wondering from the other side. I was the last time Rutgers beat Penn State. What do you remember about that game? Those 2, you know, emotions, and then I guess that game.
I remember it's Tony Sackett was the quarterback. I remember there was a play, and not that Tony's down in South Jersey now. I remember late in the game, if I'm correct, Dave Jacob, the tight end, was wide open, I think he was the only guy in the end zone, and the ball went like 10 feet over his head, and we lost the game. And obviously it was a huge win for Dick Anderson, you know, having been at Penn State for a number of years. And Dick's son Jeff was on the team with us at Penn State. He was a year younger than me. So, and you know, it was the first time, you know, as mad as Joe was, it was different in the locker room afterwards. I think there was a little bit almost of, whether it was respect, whatever it was, that at least it was Dick that beat us. You know what I mean? It felt weird, and you know, I remember saying we got out hustle, we got out coach, we got out play, we got out everything. You know, so, but yeah, that's what I remember about the game. But maybe that's not even accurate. I swear that we had a chance, and it just didn't hit. But Tony was under pressure, whatever happened, and that ended up being, I think it was Joe's first losing season ever. At the time, I think he may have had one more later, a couple years later. But and no, I have not, you know, gone against these guys since it was the first couple years in the Big Ten. We played them, we went up and beat them there. I think it was the 1000th game at Beaver Stadium, and then the great Penn State team in '94 that beat us 31-24, which I remember Monty Toomer kind of short-armed one at the end. To this day, that I still don't know what happened. You know, I thought we were in time, but I think 31 was the lowest they scored in any game that year. So it's been a long time. And then, you know, it's different, I guess, when you work for so many different places. It's not as, but, you know, I grew up in Pennsylvania. I do have a lot of respect for, you know, with James and a guy like Trace McSorley and that some of those guys have done to, obviously that could have gone a lot of different ways when they got there, and they were able to kind of right the ship, so to speak, and obviously get it going in the right direction. So, I'm interested to meet Trace at some point after the game, probably just to tell him as a alum that a lot of people appreciate what he's done there, and obviously it helped a lot of other guys too. But that's a tough guy. That's done a lot for that program.
Can Reggie Sutton catch?
Yeah, I think he can. I'll tell you, it's funny. Like, you forget he's a tackle. I do. Like, you watch him play and think, he's 270-ish. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe he is a tight end. I don't know. Rather than say, hey, you got to put on 50 and go be a tackle, maybe it's drop 15 and go be a tight. I don't know. He's a great kid. He's tremendously smart, calm demeanor, very, like there's a couple things at halftime we talked about, and he's like, yeah, sure. He just lines up, Blas Vinovich. It's like, yeah, whatever. He's a pretty cool customer, and he's helped us the last couple weeks.
I guess, how did that conversation begin? You just want to get him on the field, and you knew that you needed something at tight end. How did he get chosen?
Well, I think it became kind of like what you guys said about the Jerome thing. We go through a couple of weeks and we're struggling a little bit now, and all of a sudden with the edge, at the edge, in a run game, and it's like, well, what are the alternatives? And it came up as an alternative, and it was right on cue because there was 4 games left. We actually talked about it the week before. Northwestern got into that kind of bye weekish during the week. And then it was almost too late, and it was like, well, there's 5 games. Then it was like, well, we kind of prompted them, hey, this is what's going to happen. So just kind of get them going on it a little bit. And then once we got into Wisconsin week, it was like full speed ahead. And 4 games left kind of made it nice to, not have to worry about, going down any road that you had to shut off for whatever reason. You play him every game. From here on out, he loves it. The players love it. They get fired up when he goes in there. They were all fired up when he knocked 15 down, and he's helped us. He's a good kid. I think he'll help us a lot in the future for sure. Now he's got 4 years left.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay.
Nice job.
All right, thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
John.